So let's talk for a little bit here about relations. And no, I'm not talking about your cousins, but we're talking about relations as it appears in math. And this little lesson comes up regardless of the math course you take. It's in every single course. And so whether this is new or just a review, let's just go over for a few minutes about relations and how that they can be represented. And they can be represented as a set of ordered pairs. They could be an equation, a table, a mapping, or a graph. And so let's first kind of look here at the mapping. And so a mapping lists the x values in the domain and the y values in the range. And then we will see an arrow drawn from each x value in the domain, going from the x value in the domain over to the y value in the range. And of course, the domain contains the values of the independent variable, or what we would generally call the x values, and the range contains the values of the dependent variable, which we would then call the y values. Well, let's look at an illustration here of a mapping. And so we can see over here, we've got a mapping of the x values, or what are represented as the domain. And over here to the right, we've got what are the range values, or those are represented as the y values. That's funny looking y. But here we see we've got an x value of -2 that is in relation or related to a y value of 4, as well as an x value of -1 relating to a y value of 4 in our function here, and so on down the line. And so this gives you an example of a mapping of the domain and range, or we might most typically think of that, or I do anyway, as the mapping of an ordered pair. Now we just looked at that illustration of the mapping, and I guess it's pretty cool, but it's a little bit cumbersome to deal with. You just need to be able to recognize it if you see it in any of your homework or any kind of assessments. But now let's take a look at a table. And a table is used a whole lot more often. In fact, we can use a table to help plot points in a coordinate plane. But a table is going to give us a list of the x coordinates in the first column. As you see right here, here we got this first column here is giving us the x coordinates, and then the y coordinates are listed in the second column of the range. And so here our table puts them there together, and we can see here from this table that we've got an x value of 2 in relation to 5, and dropping on down we got our x value of -1. That's a relation into -2. So looking at a third representation of ordered pairs, and this is the one that I think is probably the most common, that we'll run across most often than not, and that's just simply listing an ordered pair where we got 2 values inside parentheses. The value here on the left side of the parentheses we're going to say is the x value, or the independent variable, and then the value here on the right of the parentheses is the y value, or the dependent variable. And so from these ordered pairs we get tables. From the ordered pair we're going to get mapping, or I guess vice versa, but more often than not you're going to see it in the form of an ordered pair. X and y value, x on the left, y value on the right, domain on the left, range on the right. And then lastly, we'll take a look at the graph in the coordinate plane. And we know that the coordinate plane, or we should all know by now, that the coordinate plane is going to have both a horizontal axis, which is going to represent the values of x, wild looking straight line, not so straight, and the vertical axis, that's going to give us the values of the y coordinates, where we're going to place the y coordinates from the ordered pair, or from the mapping, or from the table. And then, of course, where these two, this vertical axis, which is representing y values, or the range, or we could also call it the dependent variable, a horizontal axis representing values of x, or we could also say that that's representing values of the domain. We could also say that that's representing values of the independent variable. And then where these two vertical and horizontal axes join together, we call that the point of origin. And so there we go. We've shown how we can represent relations. We looked at mapping, tables, coordinate plane, and ordered pairs. The only one we didn't take a look at here in this little video lesson was equations, but we'll get plenty of practice with that, so don't worry, it's coming.